We're here at the ICC. You are today announcing that you are applying for arrest warrants for top military and political leadership in the Israel-Gaza war since the October 7th events. First and foremost, explain to me exactly what you're asking for and who you are charging.
Today, Kристиан, we've applied for warrants to the pretrial chamber of the International Criminal Court in relation to 3 individuals that are Hamas members. Sinwar, who's in charge on the ground.
That's Yahya Sinwar?
Absolutely. Dave, who's in charge of the Al-Qasim Brigade, and Heniة, who's one of their political bureau based in Doha.
What are the charges?
The charges are extermination, murder, taking of hostages, rape and sexual assault in detention. So these are the key crimes that are alleged to have been committed by these 3 individuals. The world was shocked on the 7th of October when people were ripped from their bedrooms, from their homes, from the different kibbutzim in Israel. And people have suffered enormously, and we have a variety of evidence to support the applications that we've submitted to the judges.
You have also issued warrants against the top political and military leadership of the government of the State of Israel.
We've applied for warrants. Of course, the judges must determine whether or not to issue them, but we've applied today, we'll apply for warrants for Prime Minister Netnyahu and also Minister of Defense غالانت for the crimes of causing extermination, causing starvation as a method of war, including the denial of humanitarian relief supplies, deliberately targeting civilians in conflict.
So much of the evidence that the ICC has is based around the starvation charges, starvation as a weapon of war. And this comes from going all the way back to the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, who's also charged alongside Benjamin Netanyahu, what he said in the 2 days after October 7th, declaring a total siege of everything, including food, water, energy, all of that. He said, we are fighting human animals and we are going to fight back. So you also have US and other officials confirming the pockets of starvation, the pockets of famine, and all sorts of other aid officials. So that is where the bulk of their evidence is, and that is why, and this is the first time starvation, if it gets to an actual trial, will be prosecuted at the ICC as a war crime. Now, in terms of Israel being a democracy and why shouldn't its own judiciary and law enforcement be tasked with this issue, he said, well, of course they can and should, and of course they're capable of doing so. But I've been warning, these are his words, Karim Khan, for months, publicly and in my conversations with the government, that if you do not pay proper attention to civilians while you are fighting the enemy and the terrorist organization, then don't complain if my office does something about it. So he's saying he gave Israel all the opportunity to take this matter into their hands, as any democratic state, is afforded. Any country that is able to do that independently and willing to do that will not be, the ICC will not seek arrest warrants. It'll be up to that country to do it. So far, that hasn't happened.
Kристиан, then this is where we stand. The ICC seeking arrest warrants at this point. What are the next steps here?
So the charges were laid out, the arrest warrants, as we said, are being sought, and those were approved unanimously by an independent panel. So that was the first step. The independent panel comprises a group of highly distinguished jurists, and there are, there are Jewish jurists, there are some Muslim jurists, there are British, there are all sorts of very, very distinguished jurists who have had incredible world experience in the field of human rights and in the field of prosecuting war crimes in the past. One of the main jurists is somebody who I've interviewed several times, and that is Judge Theodore Meron. Now, he is not just a Holocaust survivor. He used to be president of the ICC, and he was once an advisor to the Israeli Foreign Ministry shortly after and around the 1967 war, which is when all this, the occupation and the settlements and all of that became entrenched. So there are people who really have a huge amount of of experience who Karim Khan has, brought into this process. The next step is to present this request for these arrest warrants for these 5 individuals to what they call the panel of trial judges here at the ICC, and they will then rule, whether it's in a matter of weeks or months, we don't know how long this process will take, on whether in fact this demand for arrest warrants stands up. And then there's the rest of the process. Now, clearly, you can beg the question, even if we have arrest warrants, how can we affect them? The ICC does not have an independent law enforcement or apprehending apparatus, so that, is a whole nother kettle of worms or whatever it is, as they did with President Putin, for instance, charging him and his henchwoman over the illegal abduction of children in Ukraine. They have not been able to arrest him.